Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk about animal protein. There's so much conflicting information out there today with so many opinions and diets and diet fads and recommendations, and AI suggests this, and this person suggests this, and Mercola suggests this. It's like, okay, I want to help you get clear about this topic, especially with regard to protein today and animal protein, because it's one of our most important macronutrients that we need to have in our diets in sufficient amounts in order to support many aspects of our health. So throughout the episode today, I'm going to discuss vegetarian or plant protein versus animal protein, why plant protein sources are inferior sources of protein. Now, I'm going to do a little aside here. We have two vegans on our farm. They are amazing beasts that take the grass grown by sunlight and they turn that into milk. At least one of them at this time is turning them into milk. Those are our Jersey cows, and these animals are designed to be vegan. They're designed to eat grass. They're designed to eat cellulose and turn that into milk, meat. Incredible. They're biologically hardwired to be vegan. And I'm bringing this up because, you know, we have cows. I've been learning a lot about cows this year, particularly dairy cows. And we have a cow named Rose right now, and we have a calf that was just born a week ago that we've been raising. And now the calf's name is Ruth, aka Ruth Jones, aka Skip to My Lou, and she's a week old today. And it's been a hell of a week with Ruth, and she was born a little bit weak, and we've had to bottle feed her and kind of nurse her back to health. I've been using a lot of homeopathy on Ruth, which has been insanely helpful. Animals respond so incredibly well to homeopathy, and just really thankful to have this medicine available to be helping her. Otherwise, you know, in most situations people would have to do things like antibiotics or, you know, other interventions that can be really hard on animals and humans as well. So you know, you all can read more about Ruth's birth. I like to call her Skip to My Lou because when we take her on walks, she's literally like skipping, and it's so fucking cute, you guys. I mean, it just is, okay? But you can read about Ruth's birth. It was an absolute unexpected birth, intense yet amazing experience. And my wife wrote a farm blog over on our site, ojoconejo.com, ojoconejo.com. And the blog is called This Rural Life. And you can go over there and read about Ruth's birth if you want to learn more about her and our farm and that experience, which was absolutely nothing is straightforward to us. And you know, and I think that's because my son is in Aquarius, so everything is a little bit quirky, and my wife has a lot of Aquarius as well, so that Ruth's birth was definitely unexpected and chaotic and amazing and communal all at the same time. But back to cows. Interestingly, cows need a source of plant protein and animal protein. Now, hang on, I'm going to explain this because yes, they are vegan, but you know, so cows, they only eat grass and sometimes grain for humans who feed them grain. So where do they get their animal protein? Well, once the food passes through their rumen, it's gone through that process, it enters another digestive chamber called the abomasum. Okay, and this is where cows no longer become vegan, as they turn all of the grass that they just broke down into complete animal protein. All of the grass, all the cellulose just broke down. It enters this next chamber, and that chamber turns the fucking cellulose in the grass into what appears to be, what resembles what their body processes as animal protein. And in this regard, cows actually eat a high protein diet because their gut turns this grass, this cellulose, into protein. Now, every animal requires complete animal protein from some source, whether their body does it on their own or whether they obtain it from an outside source. All animals require a complete animal protein source in order to do what? To maintain breeding population, to breed, to become fertile, in order to support the continuation of life. So all animals except ruminants, cows are an example of ruminants, deer, there's many other animals, and a few others who can literally split cellulose and grass into complete protein. Everyone else must obtain their complete protein by eating other animals and or drinking their milk, period. We need this for breeding purposes, fertility purposes, continuation of life purposes. Humans cannot just eat plants. We cannot take plants like cows do and turn it into complete animal protein. I don't care how you combine your plant proteins and this and that, and everyone says you can make it up and make a complete protein. It's horseshit. You cannot do that. That is not possible. You cannot make up the amino acid profile in animal foods. Humans cannot do that by eating plant foods. We cannot, we're incapable. Our gut is incapable of doing so. So throughout this episode, I'm also going to talk more about why humans need animal protein and lots of it, and why you may not be eating enough of it. I'm also going to discuss how the body utilizes protein for things like metabolic health and fascial health. I'm going to discuss optimal forms of animal protein and why you should be eating more of this macronutrient at every phase of life. Now, before I dive into the episode today, I have a few announcements. One is that my Ancestral Health Certification Program, it's open for just a while longer until February 23rd. This is a go-at-your-own-pace certification course that teaches you how to create customized healing plans for your clients using a combination of sunlight and ancestral foods. The program can be completed within a 2 to 3 month period, and students have up to 12 months to complete the program once beginning their studies. You can learn more about the program over at my site, heatharshepard.com, and you can just go to the Ancestral Health Certification tab to read more, to reach out and say, hey, Heather, I want to do this program. What are the next steps? Can we get on a Q&A call? I have some questions. 1,000,000% yes. Okay, lastly, everything's exciting, right? But this is exciting because it's new, and I'm getting ready to launch an in-person paleo barbecue masterclass at my farm in northern New Mexico this summer, this June. I'm limiting the course size to 8 participants, and because I want you guys to have a hands-on experience, and I want, got to have enough ribeyes to go around, you know what I'm saying? So there's only enough grill space for 8 ribeyes. But I'm limiting the size to 8 participants. I'm stoked to offer this class for the first time, teaching you all how to cook with fire, how to cook some really amazing and delicious and nourishing paleo barbecue. This is going to be a 3-day masterclass, hands-on learning. And at the end of the day, of course, we're going to enjoy all the bounty we just cooked and prepared throughout the day over the fire. The class is going to entail everything from how to build your own cook fire, to how to cook with coals, to smoking meat and making ribs and nourishing barbecue sauces and so forth. The course is not up on my site yet, but I'm giving you like a little spoiler alert. Keep an eye out, because I sense the tickets will go pretty fast in a day or two. So I will keep you posted. You can stay tuned on my newsletter and on my Instagram feed, sunlight_rx, to stay updated about this launch. The dates are going to be June 14th through 16th. If you're like, oh my God, I need to do that, You can send an email my way and I can start a list, a reservation list. So I will be happy to do that if you're really like, yes, I need this. I want to attend the Cooking with Fire Masterclass. And so boom, that's going to be happening very soon. So stay tuned. Okay, let's talk animal protein. First things first. Most people aren't eating enough animal protein to meet their optimal health requirements, needs. The FDA recommendation around protein intake doesn't, there's a few things. One, is too low. Two, it doesn't specify what kind of protein, for example, animal versus plant, bioavailability of protein versus less bioavailable sources. They just give a number. Okay, typical, right? And that number is 50 grams per day in the States. This is not enough protein. It's not, it's too low. Okay, there's going to be issues if you're only eating 50 grams of animal protein per day. If you're eating 50 grams of animal and plant protein, like, combined, there's going to be even more issues. And if you're just eating 50 grams of plant protein, massive issues. Okay, so let me give you an idea of what, like, 50 grams of protein is. Now, my favorite food group is ribeyes, I'm not going to lie. And a 16-ounce ribeye, which is definitely what you won't find at a restaurant. If you go to a restaurant and order a ribeye, it's usually like 10 ounces, 12 if you're lucky. Okay, they skimp. If I go to a restaurant, I'm gonna need 2 of those in order to feel anywhere full and satiated. They give you a 10-ounce ribeye. Okay, I like to eat a 16-ounce ribeye. When I get a ribeye, I go for that amount because I know that's the amount that satiates me. I feel good on. I feel like, okay, that was nourishing. But a 16-ounce ribeye, has roughly 82 grams of protein. That's amazing. Like, you can meet so many of your protein requirements by eating a cut of meat like that. Okay, but now, of course, the cut of it's going to differentiate. Is it 82 grams? Is it 60 grams? The thickness of the cut, is there a bone in there? Because then you have to weigh that, you have to factor that into the grams, right? So don't take this as every ribeye is 82 grams of protein, every 16-ounce ribeye, right? There's some factors, right, to go about there. But I aim to eat and get my Ancestral diet clients to eat around 100 to 120 grams of animal protein per day. Now we're talking. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're really supporting our health. This may seem lofty to some people, especially people who are on the lower end of the animal protein intake, okay? And this number may seem lofty also because of the way we've been programmed around protein and meat and animal foods, and they're bad and this and that, and it's absolutely, you know what it is, it's horseshit. So now I was debating whether to say this or not, but we're going for it. So I think most of you know, have been listening to me for a while, that I'm not a big fan of studies. I don't really like studies because they're so top heavy, they're so biased, they're so heavily funded for a certain result. It's like, is this even accurate? Yeah, who funded it? Etc. Right? Most of you know this. So there have been, however, I'm going to mention this study. That being said, I have a study to talk about. There have been multiple studies done comparing animal protein versus plant protein and the absorbability, aka the bioavailability of the protein in these foods, meaning bioavailability means how much protein does the gut and body actually absorb after eating these foods. So there's been studies on this. And time again, studies show that humans absorb far more protein from animal foods than plant foods. Meaning, if you eat an 18-ounce ribeye, high five, I mean, really, but if you eat an 18-ounce ribeye, and let's say you eat the equivalent in peanuts combined with other nuts, combined with broccoli, combined with almond meal, right? The gut absorbs well over half more protein from animal foods than plant foods. Not only that, okay, end of study. Not only that, the if somebody is struggling with gut issues, which is 99.100% of the population has some form of gut issue, a plant-based diet is literally the worst thing you can do. Because why? Because you're already not absorbing your foods properly. You already have absorption issues in your gut for XYZ reasons. Too many antibiotics, too many vaccinations, too much indoor lifestyle, right? Too many grains. And this is when we really need to shift away from plant foods and focus on animal foods to get the most bang for our buck that we possibly can from a nutritional standpoint, from an absorbability standpoint, from an assimilation standpoint. And this is huge in terms of for everyone. But if you're struggling with gut health issues, plant foods are going to aggravate the issue. There are anti-nutrients in plant foods, okay? And these anti-nutrients block the absorption of certain minerals in the gut. And these anti-nutrients are very hard to digest, and they cause a lot of stress on the gut, a lot of stress. And when your gut is stressed, it's not going to absorb things properly. It's not going to assimilate things properly. Your gut, your immune system, a lot of the immune system is lined in the gut. That's not going to work as effectively. It's a whole thing, right? So today, modern foods will give you calories, but they're not going to give you nourishment. Okay. And when the government tells you that they're logging a forest in the Amazon to stop hunger and get more food into kids and people who are starving by planting GMO crops, they're not doing anyone a favor. They're not feeding hungry people. They're not focused on quality. They're focused on cheap. They're focused on fast. They're focused on sick. Because all of this, what does it do? It keeps them tethered, keeps them tethered to the government. So that was a little bit of an aside from the plant-based, but I couldn't hold back. So bottom line, we're designed to eat food that sustains and nourishes us. And this is, the biological point, the physiological point of eating food to nourish ourselves and really to set our bodies up to create the most thriving, nourishing being, to procreate and create this most nourishing being that we possibly can. A vegan diet, a child conceived on a vegan or a vegetarian diet is going to be a weaker organism than a child conceived on a strong animal foods diet. Point blank, period. No question about it. Put two pictures together. Take Weston A. Price before modern foods, when they lived outside and ate animal foods, and then take a kid modern day who was grown up on Cheerios and soy milk. I mean, it's not even close. It's like, okay. Now, I mentioned fascia, and I haven't talked much about that in the podcast, and I want to take a little time here to talk about that today because of this connection, this relationship with protein in the diet. Now, I think everybody knows what fascia is. You can Google image a picture if you're unsure. Anatomy Trains gives some really good insight. That's a book that gives some really good insight on the fascia. Person who wrote it's a genius. It can be like kind of reading like Jack Bruce's blog sometimes, and you're like, WTF? Like, whoa, what? Right? But fascia, just like a brief summary here, it's the fibrous connective tissue that basically holds all your pieces and parts together. It's like the tightest saran wrap around your tissues, muscles, and organs. It holds things in place. It provides electrical current. It acts as a protective mechanism. This area of the body is exceptionally important because of these reasons of holding our structure, of protecting our muscles, of protecting our tissues and organs. It acts as a messenger, a signaling system. It protects against EMF damage and that penetrating into your vital organs. It helps protect against trauma. Trauma can get stored in the fascia, especially when we experience shock or physical injury and we fail to heal it properly. The fascia holds this memory and can hold trauma, and then as soon as that re-trigger comes up, it's stored there, and boom, you bump up against it and you get re-triggered. This is where something like a homeopathic remedy for shock could be really helpful for helping to unwind this out of the fascia. Now, okay, if you heard that and you're like, I've had shock in my life, or my kid has had, please don't just Google homeopathic remedy for shock. Please don't. It's harmful. This medicine is amazing, and I love that it's available to everyone, but you fucking got to know what you're doing before taking a remedy. You can't just take a remedy without knowing what potency should I take? How often should I repeat it? Google is unhelpful. And until you have some basic, hopefully a more than basic training, you can't, please don't just take a remedy. I just had this talk with my students this afternoon. It's like, that can be more harmful. That was an aside. I just needed to say that. Okay. Now, fascia has, so many other things that roles that it plays, but in order for it to achieve all of these things that I've mentioned, it has to be hydrated. It has to stay hydrated. Most people think of hydration as the water you drink. Oh, I need my 8 ounces. Okay, that's another, government training. Sure, we all need water. We all need clean water. We all need mineral water. We all need really healthy water, right? But your mitochondria need to be hydrated, your fascia needs to be hydrated, every ounce of your body needs to be hydrated. This is not, this type of hydration doesn't the majority of it does not come from the water you drink. Sure, it plays a role, but the majority, no. The hydration status of your body and your fascia, especially your mitochondria in your fascia, are determined by a whole host of other things other than the water you drink. What are those things? EMF exposure. Are you on your phone all day? Do you carry it on sitting in your pocket? Do you use Wi-Fi? That's going to be high. Do you work next to a cell tower? Do you live next to a cell tower? Right? Um, Sunlight exposure. Is it decent? Is it not decent? It's going to influence the hydration status of your cells, of your fascia, your stress levels, and nutrition, particularly protein intake, has a huge effect on the hydration status of your fascia, of your cells. Now, one way to support your fascia is what? Get your Sunlight RX on. What's that? If you're not sure, go to my site. You can get a copy of the Sunlight RX ebook. It's my 4-step protocol that walks you through how to use sunlight in a therapeutic context to support your health. Okay, so one way to support your fascia is to practice the Sunlight RX, keep your EMF exposure low, and to eat quality animal protein. Now, when I was in my 20s, I trained professional athletes. I call this my past life. Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL. These guys were freaking jacked. They had a lot of muscle, a lot of muscle tissue. Their fascia, on most of them, incredible. Just if you could take a snapshot of that, it had to look absolutely insane. But, the most, aside from, Major League Baseball and sports and athletes, right? Aside from that, right? Well, I should say, including that population, as well as all the rest of the population, the people who are most susceptible to injury have weak fascia. That saran wrap is breaking. That it's severing. It's dwindling down. It's the tightness of that saran is loosening and loosening and loosening. Even though on the outside it may look robust, like you see this NFL dude and he's like jacked, or you see this Major League Baseball dude and you're like, oh my God, he's ripped, or he's, an amazing physique, etc. Right? That does not mean that that person's fascia is in a healthy state. And here's the thing: people who work out in a gym under blue light, or who work out, let's say maybe they even work out outside, but they work inside all day, right? Something like this. the more indoor time you spend, the more time you spend indoors, the more time you work out indoors, the more compromised that fascia is going to be. The more EMF exposure you have, the more compromised that fascia is going to be. The more plant protein you eat, the more compromised that fascia is going to be. And so this is why people who may appear to look in a healthy state, or they work out indoors under blue light or on a Peloton with the Wi-Fi on it, are going to be more susceptible to injury, and because the quality of their tissues is built on something called singlet state versus triplet state molecules. I'm not getting into that, but all I want to say here is your fascia will be weaker even if you appear on the outside to be, oh, I look fit, CrossFit, and then you're working out indoors, your fascia and the hydration status of your fascia and of your cells ain't gonna be pretty. And then we're gonna set the stage for issues, whether that's injury, whether that's a metabolic health issue, whether that's a hormone health issue. These are the three biggest areas where this can start to show up. Now, I want to segue here into a chat about muscular health. Okay. This is not a bodybuilding podcast. However, everyone, I want to emphasize, everyone needs lean muscle mass for health purposes. Repeat, everyone needs lean muscle mass for health purposes, particularly for metabolic health purposes, for blood sugar regulation support. Okay, this is an aspect of blood sugar regulation that is often overlooked, but it's absolutely key. If you're working with clients and you have, or if you yourself are struggling with blood sugar issues, metabolic health issues, weight, obesity, etc., improving your lean muscle mass is a great way to reverse type 2 diabetes and blood sugar struggles if you're working out in the right environment. And if you're not overdoing the workout, right? There's a happy medium. CrossFit is going over that line. Okay. Walking and at a shuffle pace around a track, and it takes you 15 minutes to do one loop, isn't going to cut it, right? Okay. So it just happy medium, right? Now, skeletal muscle lines our entire body and has extremely high metabolic demands. Hopefully, you're all moving a lot throughout the day, and your muscles are pumping out a lot of ATP energy to help keep up with your movement needs. Okay. Now, even if this entails you walking from one room to the next in your house, or on days you're not really going out and doing much physical activity, your muscles still require heaps of energy, and your fascial structure and muscular strength still require heaps of energy. Lean muscle mass helps to reduce and maintain healthy blood sugar levels. I wish people would talk about this more in a way that extends beyond the athlete population, because we often think, oh, lean muscle mass, that means I'm like agile and athletic, and who cares if you are or not. Lean muscle mass, we all need it, and this is one huge way to maintain healthy blood sugar levels. If you yourself or have a client with blood sugar issues, lean muscle mass. Now, I'm going to tie in here because protein plays a big role in how we can achieve this. So, this is yet another reason why it's so important to stay active throughout life. Now, the more advanced the type 2 diabetes state gets, the more muscle wasting there is. How does this show up? Well, you see people, they look more flabby. They don't have that tone. They have more of a flabbiness. Their muscles go from lean to flabby. And this is, we also see this. It's like the kids with the doughy faces today, because they're eating too much sugar, they're eating too many processed foods. Their parents aren't cooking protein and animal protein, right? And so the tissues are going to reflect that. This is a reflection that the hydration status in those cells is poor, okay? And this is a key we're leading up to, we're building here. The more doughy appearance somebody has, the more flabby appearance once somebody has, this is, you don't need an HbA1c test to say this is type 2 diabetes. You just need to look in the mirror. Sometimes we really try to get confirmation in ways that there's confirmation all around us if we just know how to observe the body and symptoms and so forth. Not that I'm not a fan of some blood work, right? But I'm just saying. So now, the more advanced the type 2 diabetes state gets, the more muscle wasting there is, and the muscles go from more of a lean state, and the flabbier and flabbier they get. Oh, we're getting deeper and deeper into a metabolic issue, into type 2 diabetes issue. This is why we see reduced mobility and reduced strength over time in this population. Now, one main reason for this is that when you use your muscles, whether you're going for a walk, you're going to lift a few pieces of wood, you're going to chop wood, you're going to move a pile of rocks, you're going to do some bench press, okay? Whenever you use your muscles, you burn glucose, okay? And when you build lean muscle mass, you know, this, even when you're working out, what I want to say is, even when you're working out, you're burning glucose. Even when you're lifting a pile of rocks, even when you're doing a bench press, what are you doing? You're depleting glucose. Now, okay, let's get something clear here. You can literally, you don't need a gym membership. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I should really sign up for that gym membership. Maybe, but that's also, then we're getting to the indoor working out under blue light thing, which I'm not a fan of. You could make a home gym so easy, so affordable. Like, your gym membership prices will, you'll spend far more on that than if you just invest in a home gym over time. And you don't need that many things. Okay. Now, so what do? You're hearing this like, oh my God, okay, let me get my lean muscle mass going so I can work on my blood sugar levels. Great idea. And literally, you can do this by going outside and starting to move some things. Hey, that pile of rocks needs to be moved. Hey, that pile of dirt needs to be shoveled and moved, right? We think of this as peasantry work, but honestly, we don't move enough. We don't do enough physical activity. We don't use our bodies enough anymore. We sit too much. We think, oh God, that's going to be hard work. Let me just call someone else to do it, or this sort of thing. We're looking for a back door often. Now, sometimes it can be helpful depending on the job, right? To get help. But there's so many things we can do right outside our door, even if that entails going for a walk and putting some ankle weights around your ankles, right? That's going to help support your lean muscle mass. Now, so you can go outside, you can move a few things, or you can, what I recommend is building a home gym. So it's affordable, it's easy, and you can do a few lifts here and there. And that's what I do, and that's what I suggest, let alone I live on a farm, and it's like, there's no shortage of lifting things here, just gonna say. But for those of you who don't live on a farm, get a home gym, right? It could be, or even if you have a small yard, there's plenty of things that you can do outside. Start a compost pile, move things, move your rocks around, move the dirt pile around. I mean, it's endless, right? We got to get creative. To get the most bang for your buck with regard to blood sugar regulation and lean muscle mass, though, circuit type of workout does really well. You do a lift, you do a stretch, you do a lift, a stretch, a lift, like this. Not like, oh, I'm gonna bicep curl 50 pounds each and then sit here and chit chat. Dude, you're not going to, if you want to build lean muscle mass, but really if you want to heal type 2 diabetes, that's not the way to do it. More of this circuit type of workout is going to be much more beneficial. Where does the protein come in? Okay, let's chat about this. Protein supports lean muscle mass. Okay, now, if you think you're going to turn into Hulk Hogan just by upping your ribeye intake or your animal protein intake, please rest assured This is not the case. I know this is a concern that many women particularly have. Trust me, this will not happen. You're not going to get jacked from eating more animal protein. But what will happen is your physiology will start to take a different shape just by eating more animal protein. It'll be a different form. More lean muscle mass will result simply by eating more animal protein. Okay? Not Hulk Hogan, not even the Major League Baseball style, but you'll notice your physiology changes for the better and your muscular structure changes for the better over time as you include more animal protein into your diet. It has to be sufficient. So, more than 50 freaking grams a day that the FDA recommends. You're going to look like, when our calf Ruth was born, she looked like a puppet on strings on the ground, right? It's like that's how you'll look under, or like the dough person, if you eat the FDA's recommendation or lower. Okay, 120 grams is what I strive for. And like, don't count, don't do that, don't weigh it. No, just know, okay, this is about this. This is about this much. Awesome. I feel satiated. I feel good. When we get into counting and structure and dogma with diet, it just goes to shit. It's not sustainable. It's not fun. And it gets tedious. And that's not how food should be. Okay. Here's the thing. If your body doesn't get enough protein from your diet, animal protein, cap locks, underline, exclamation point, okay, then it will start breaking down the muscles and other tissues in order to get it. You're only getting that 50 grams, tissues are going to start getting broken down. You're pregnant and you're only eating 60, 70 grams, tissue, you're going to start looking doughy. You're going to start bumping up against things like preeclampsia. You're going to start bumping up against things like gestational diabetes. The diet, animal protein particularly, needs to be high as a survival of the fittest tactic. Okay, so now you don't get enough protein. What's happening? Oh, your muscles start to waste, they break down. Now you're flabby, now you've lost your tone. Other tissues start to become compromised as well because the body needs this nutrient so much. It's going to go and get it. It's going to get it however it can. And of course, this leads to a whole host of other issues, from metabolic disease to energy production issues to decreased muscle function, and even things like hair loss, nail issues, weight gain, flabbiness, doughy appearance, etc. Now, a lot of people focus on fat as a satiation nutrient and as a nutrient that aids in weight loss, aka the ketogenic diet, the keto diet. But I am not a fan of the keto diet, point blank. Okay, here's why. We really should, why? Because of everything I'm saying here, and then everything I'm going to end with today. But we really should be eating far more animal protein than fat. This is one issue that I have with the keto diet, is that it completely reduces in a significant way the most important nutrient that we need to have in our diet, which is animal protein. And I go, oh, animal protein down to 15%. No, you don't want to do that. You don't want animal protein to be that low. And the ketogenic diet does that. And that's really dangerous. That's not a healthy practice. So, they're concerned, oh, it's going to spike insulin. No, it's not. It's not going to spike insulin when you eat enough animal protein, when you're also mobile, right? It's like, it's just not going to happen. And what's wrong with your insulin should go up a little bit after you eat. That's a normal thing. Oh, my insulin went up after I ate. Good? That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And people get so concerned. We're looking at just a piece of the pie. We're not looking at this from a holographic perspective. The truth of the matter is, high protein diets, one, are very satiating. You eat a ribeye and tell me you're really ready to dive into something else. Like you're still starving, right? Not going to happen unless you go to the restaurant and they give you a little teeny thing, right? But high protein diets, animal protein, I really want to emphasize, are one of the most supportive foods for macronutrients for metabolic health, for overweight issues, for obesity struggles, for type 2 diabetes, for chronic fatigue, for osteoporosis, and many other modern day diseases. Who has these issues? Everyone. 38 million people have diabetes, and that's only the reported cases have type 2 diabetes. That number is far higher. That's just the reported cases, or for people who actually go to medical practitioners and are reported cases. People who have glucose levels of 100, yeah, you make the list. People who have HbA1c over 5.1, yeah, you make the list. Does the government put you on the list? No, it doesn't, unless you're on like insulin shots or something. So that number is far higher. Okay, so we have, what does that tell us? We have an animal protein intake deficiency going on here, and it's an epidemic. Animal protein is actually incredibly satiating. It doesn't have the side effects that excess eating too much fat has, like on the keto diet. Oh my gosh, when that thing, I mean, people are still doing it today, but I can't tell you how many people over the last several years who, excuse me, have been on a ketogenic diet. They pile on the fat, boom. And now what do they have? Their gallbladders removed. They're having liver detox issues. They have nausea. They have lack of appetite. They have liver issues. They're vomiting, diarrhea, constipated, etc. It's a laundry list. Your body doesn't need that much fat, nor can it process all that fat without protein. I'm not a fan of high fat diets. I'm not. And I am not a fan of, here's the thing. Okay. I'm not a fan of high fat diets, while I am a fan of animal fat, but not excessive. Okay. We do things excessively. I know, because I've been there. Oh, we got to go all in, just balls to the wall. It's usually going to cause more harm than good when we do balls to the walls things. So my protein requirements are at least 100 grams for adults. But there are cases where this number needs to be even higher, such as during pregnancy, stressful situations in life. I mean, you come up against something super stressful, increase your protein intake. You're recovering from a chronic illness, up your protein intake. You're recovering from an acute illness. Once you get your appetite back, increase your protein intake. You need to lose weight, increase your protein intake. And not just protein, but animal protein. And please, that does not mean, for the love of God, protein powders. If you have those, throw them in your compost pile. They're no good. Okay, so what our animal protein intake boils down to is that most people need to be eating more and not less, and that most people aren't eating enough, period. The only instance where we really need to worry about or be concerned with too much protein intake is when someone is on dialysis or they're in the throes of kidney failure. That's it. That's it. That is it. Okay. Now, I'm not going to lie. Okay. I love peanut butter. I love it. And of course, there are a ton of other plant protein sources out there besides peanut butter, right? These are not ones that I'm a fan of, but the other, we have pea protein, we have soy, we have protein even in various plant foods like broccoli, right? But we have to understand that this isn't like, we're not comparing apples to apples here. The protein isn't the same. The amino acid profile isn't the same. Plant proteins are not complete proteins, no matter how you combine it, any way you slice it. Plant protein is not equivalent to animal protein, no matter what the vegan activist groups tell you. If you combine this soy with this peanut butter, no, it's not equivalent. And then if we even get into the bioavailability, assimilation, it's really not equivalent then. Pound for pound, it just doesn't add up from a bioavailability standpoint and from a complete protein standpoint. You cannot combine plants to get a complete animal protein. Cows can, other ruminants can, humans cannot. I don't care what vegan tells you that this is possible. It ain't. It's not possible. It's not possible. When it comes to making the most optimal protein sources, I know every one of you know this, but I want to emphasize, think animal protein, number one. Then think, okay, land animals that are grass-fed, pasture-raised, sea animals, ocean animals that are wild caught. No, organic seafood does not count. No, tilapia isn't a real fish. It's a genetically engineered fish that has no business being in anyone's diet or sold in the fish market, on the fish shelf. No, no, no. Somebody's like, I brought tilapia. That's when you open your garbage can and throw it in when they're not looking. Okay. It's not a real fish. When grass fed isn't available, okay, with regard to land animals, go for organic. I always buy bone in cuts of meat when they're available, when it's, appropriate, because the flavor and the nutritional superiority increases when you get bone in cuts of meat. And then bonus, when you buy bone-in cuts, you can save those for when you're ready to make bone broth. Just keep a bone bag, put it in your freezer, and pull it out when you're ready to make bone broth. Now, there is something, excuse me, to be said about for the carnivore diet. However, I am not a fan of extremes as they're dangerous. Extremes are dangerous. Anything extreme comes with higher risk. Okay, extreme, um, just extreme anything, extreme sports, anything with extreme in it, think red flag. And while I often don't recommend a full-on carnivore diet, there are some exceptions with some of my ancestral diet clients. Okay, there are some exceptions. Those are rare, but okay, I often don't recommend a full-on carnivore. Okay, I do recommend, however, eating the bulk of your calories from animal protein. Okay, I will see you next week where I'll be talking all about the health benefits of butter.